Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Wes, Hank, and Andy. And first of all, I just want to say sorry for the we dropped a show last week. Last week. My God, it's Sunday.
Yeah,
it's the beginning of the week. Last week we postponed Random Fandom Tuesday because I was not I was a little under the weather. So my apologies for that. We will be back this Tuesday, but that's not what we're here for tonight. We are here tonight for it's our part. Part four of the Ahsoka Fano show. This one is coming to us courtesy of Andy, who put in all of the legwork this week. So I gotta.
Hank, did you want to say what you're going to say about this one?
Oh, best episode ever.
Best episode ever.
Oh my God, there was so much in this episode.
I get a text message. Are we watching this at the same time? Yes, we are. Best episode ever.
And then there's me. La 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 la. I don't hear nothing.
How do we co-opt that from The Simpsons and make it our own T-shirt? I guess.
I don't know.
It could work.
Oh, we got some well wishes coming in tonight. It's our buddy TJC over in the UK. Hello, good evening, gents. Hope you are all well. With a cheers, I cheers to you, sir. You know what? Things are pretty good. I'm pretty excited to talk about this week's episode.
I'm excited to get through it, but I'm also excited to get to Tuesday because damn.
So we want to talk about that for a minute?
Sure.
There's a reason why this episode is getting a limited theatrical release in 10 theaters across the US.
None close to us.
Yeah, I mean, if it is what we think it might be, and when I say what I think it might be, an alternate duel on Mustafar, anybody?
There's a reason we think that too. A very big one.
Yeah.
True story.
I would totally go and see this theatrically.
Absolutely. I went looking for tickets, but I couldn't find it.
How far are you willing to drive?
Fly to London for that one show.
Yeah, really.
But before we get too far in, should we rattle a cage?
Sure, let's have another round of
bad Star Wars jokes.
Always like the bad dad Star Wars jokes.
I got one for you. Which website did Chewbacca get arrested for creating?
Oh. I mean, if I could say it in Shriwuk, I would. That one.
There you go. WikiLeaks.
Nice.
Was there any other answer to that?
I don't know. What would be a Wookiee Pornhub?
Yubnub.com.
Snooky Wookie. Snooky Wookie.
Snooky Wookie.
Wookie Snoo Snoo.
Death by
Wicked.
Yeah.
Wow. It all went to pot.
It did.
I'm so sorry.
It's the heat.
So yeah, we are into the fourth part here, and this episode is titled "The Fallen Jedi."
The Fallen Jedi.
Yeah, it's got a listed runtime of 41 minutes with titles and credits, but only comes in at 33:38 without.
We're averaging. I was thinking about this last week. Titles and credits were averaging about 7 minutes there per episode. It varies by like a second or two each week, but roughly
around that. Yeah,
about 7 minutes worth. Yeah.
This one is directed by Peter Ramsey and written by Dave Filoni. Originally aired September 5th, 2023 on Disney Plus, and the synopsis reads: Hera risks her career to help her friends while Ahsoka and Sabine confront enemies.
So is there anything that Peter Ramsey doesn't touch that isn't just gold?
Yeah, really.
Pretty much, eh?
That second multiverse Spider-Man movie.
Yep.
Incredible.
Just based on that synopsis, I'm just going to throw one of these out right away.
Nailed it.
I would say so.
Keep your finger on that button all episode.
Yeah. I absolutely will.
But like you say, it's not the first time Peter Ramsey has dabbled in Star Wars before. He did direct the episode season 3 for The Mandalorian, chapter 21, The Pirate.
Oh, that's right.
As well as Rise of the Guardians, and like you said, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I'm gonna go watch Rise of the Guardians because I had no idea he was involved.
Rise of the Guardians is actually a pretty good movie.
Yeah, nice.
And you don't need to be a kid to enjoy it.
No. A lot of stuff you don't need to be a kid to enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
They're slipping enough in for adults and kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
After our recap, we get to our opening helmet cycle and droids. The same as the last two episodes, but we're switching between red and blue. So the cycle this week is red, blue, blue, red, blue, blue, red, blue, red.
We've talked about this before, and I think there were other instances of Star Wars television where we were convinced
That it might have
that the helmet color was fixed to your side of the good
Force.
evil spectrum. Yeah,
Mm.
But they're messing with it here.
Well,
they really are. Are
Or
they?
Are they?
Are they? Again, are we so focused that we can't see the forest through the trees here?
Yeah.
I mean, Sabine's been red the whole show. And I think I pointed out second episode that Marok was blue, which is strange.
Yeah.
Um,
In the first episode, everybody was red.
that's right.
I mean,
That's
But
you know, I mean, Chopper should be red just because of his kill count, but
true. But we don't get any music over this either.
I noticed that
all we
there was
get
no
is the sounds
yeah,
of tinkering.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no music this week.
But we open, we find Hu Yang under the console trying to fix the ship as Sabine enters from outside the cockpit. And she tells the droid that she's going to try again after she sits in the co-pilot seat. Hu Yang agrees, and he gives a affirmative as he goes about connecting wires that cause sparks. Sabine radios to Home 1, but receives only static. She calls to Hera, signaling even as Fulcrum, but to no avail. And with a sigh, she stands up and says, it's still no good. Hu Yang tells her he can try to cannibalize some wiring from the secondary motivator and rewire the transmitter. And Sabine nods in agreement and then asks, where's Ahsoka? He tells her she's outside, and with that, Sabine exits. Outside, we find Ahsoka looking out among the trees and fog, and she tells her over the comms that they're still down, or tells her that the comms are still down, and the primary power converter is still offline, so they can't call for help, and they're going nowhere.
This is probably the first repair scene that I've really paid attention to since The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, no, this one goes there, that one goes there. Like, this had the same kind of weight to it for me. You know, it wasn't the same as Pelimato tricking out the N1. This had more, like, the stakes just seemed higher here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this episode that felt Empire Strikes Back to me. I think I mentioned that in the chat a few times,
Sure.
especially the sense of longing for what's next it created at the end.
Mm.
I don't think I felt that
Oh,
since
yeah.
I was a little kid.
Yeah, I'm really, I mean, I know that's not what we're talking about, but I am super excited for this week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday can't come fast enough.
But Ahsoka notes that Hu Yang said the ground base is not far from their location, and she suggests that they start there. Sabine agrees and moves to go back in the ship, but Ahsoka notes that the enemy already has the map, which means to get where they want to go, once they get there, they will face a difficult choice. And Sabine questions what the choice is, and Ahsoka turns, saying that if they can't make the journey to find Ezra, then no one should.
Anybody find it interesting that they make reference to a base that we never saw?
Well,
Are we considering the henge?
I'm considering the henge the base.
Yeah.
Because like they've literally set up camp around it.
Parked a shuttle there, and now it's
Well,
okay.
It's the
There's
more
more than a shuttle.
command base, right?
I
Yeah.
guess so.
Yeah.
Because there's all sorts of like scanning equipment, lighting, and
At least one of
I
those
suppose,
things
yeah.
you look through at Niagara Falls.
Oh, right.
Something
With the
we
coin
thought
slot.
but Sabine, with distress in her voice, notes that Ezra he'd be stranded out there, maybe this time for good. But Ahsoka, having weighed the options, states that it's better than having Thrawn return as the heir to the Empire. And Sabine ponders, then nods in agreement before saying, let's find that ground base, before turning to return up the ramp. But Ahsoka stops her again, calling to her, Sabine, can I count on you? And assertively, Sabine replies, you know you can, as she glares back at Ahsoka.
Wouldn't have asked if I thought I could.
Yeah.
She
I
knows
don't
she
think there was
can't.
anyone that didn't think that. Kim and I were watching it, and Kim actually said that out loud in the moment. No, you can't.
But I think we've already heard a really important line that kind of gets glossed over here. If we can't go, then no one should.
Then no one should.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, that's
And the we is the important part.
talking about those stakes, right?
Yeah. But as she goes and turns and heads back into the ship, she crosses past with Hu Yang on the way out, and the droid asks if everything is all right. But Ahsoka just looks back to the forest and tells him, be careful outside. Ahsoka heads up the ramp, and Hu Yang makes his way under the ship with his toolkit. And as he begins to work, the camera pulls back in the distance, and we see a shadowy droid that's watching them.
This is where I stood up and then did not sit down for the rest of the episode.
Like a little kid, and every time something cool happened, you take
closer. As soon as I saw the HK's hand, I went, "Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!"
But we fade into the hinged ground base where Balin and Morgan stare over the ocean as the workers go about their tasks. Shin and Merrick approach, and she relays that the guards have located the Jedi ship. Morgan notes that the guards won't be able to delay them long, but Balin looks back to Shin and says, "You will." And then both the false Jedi nod and depart. With the two false Jedi gone, Balin suggests that they best be getting underway, and Morgan asks if there's a hint of fear in his voice, but he tells her plainly, experience. With that, we finally get our title card, and then we cut back to Ahsoka's ship, and Hu Yang, he's continuing to work outside, sparks flying from the panel, and we see two dark figures with double-barrel blasters creeping through the surrounding forest. Inside, Sabine, now sporting her armor, is making a last-minute check on her Mandalorian blasters and rooting through her rucksack.
I wished we'd had this before I made the video on the Westar 35.
I know, eh?
To see the slide open and her putting what I believe is a Tabana gas cartridge in there.
Yeah, that's
Something
what I
like
would.
that,
I would
yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. But Sabine begins to frantically search through her pack as Ahsoka takes note. And Ahsoka joins Sabine in the common room, and picking up a clip off the table, hands it to Sabine, telling her to relax. Sabine tells Ahsoka not to worry about her, and Ahsoka replies she's not, but then questions if she should be. Sabine again says no, but Ahsoka sits and tells her she knows how much Ezra means to her, and sometimes they have to do what's right, regardless of their personal feelings. Sabine looks down and then questions if Ahsoka really believes that. And Ahsoka pauses, then tells her that when the stakes are this high, she has to.
I know we made a lot of, I made a couple Star Trek analogies last week, but if this isn't, an example of like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Yeah.
Or the one.
Yes.
More Spockisms.
Yeah. Meanwhile, outside, Hu Yang continues to solder wires together, and finishing his current task, he cites to himself, "There, finally, some progress." I love how he cocks his hand on his hip like, "Oh, I just did that."
He was very emotive this week.
Yeah.
He emoted very well. It's probably the most CG Hu Yang that we've gotten. I mean, he did have the training sequence, but man, well, we're going to see that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
So.
We're going to see it right now.
Yeah.
Because hearing some branches breaking, the droid scans the forest, but he sees nothing through the thick mist, so he turns to make for the ramp when suddenly an HK droid attacks. And Hu Yang, he dodges the first few strikes before returning some of his own, including using his two extra arms to his advantage.
I like his help.
Yeah. He's faring well, but soon the HK droid gets him pinned against the ship and then covers his mouth as the droid calls for help.
Oh, there it is.
So, like, again, what good does covering a droid's mouth do? Is that really the only speaker port?
Might be.
That's interesting. Yeah. Well, in droid speak, we call it the vocabulator.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think
Literally
while
a
we're
voice
there, I agree. I think because he's roughly humanoid, to allow him to fit in with other humanoid species, you would put his vocabulator where a biological's mouth would be.
True.
To help them fit in.
He's pretty lucky this HK wasn't armed, though. I'll tell you that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Sarah's got a point. Sarah says Hu Yang's eyes are very expressive, especially when he's fighting, and I like them. The guy blinks. I mean, he's a droid. He has no reason that he's not required to. Like, there's no reason why he should, but he does, and it really does help. Sort of helps him emote, and I agree. I like that very much as well.
Yeah. Down the forest tree line, the rest of the guards begin to emerge, and Hu Yang manages to push the HK droid away, and with that opening, he cuts some of the wires he just fixed.
On purpose.
On purpose.
On purpose.
Perfect.
Yes.
Inside, the lights flicker out, and Sabine remarks that the daft droid made it worse. But Ahsoka rushes to the ramp, igniting her lightsabers, noting he wouldn't. Sabine dons her helmet and rushes out after Ahsoka and quickly shoots the attacking HK droid in the head. The Master and Padawan work in concert, Sabine with her blasters and Ahsoka blocking any incoming fire. And
Excuse me.
shortly, Sabine takes a hit to the shoulder as Ahsoka dispatches one of the guards with a saber right through the head. Like it's a violent and almost blink and you miss it strike.
Yeah.
But Sabine blocks incoming fire with her wrist gauntlets, and seeing this, Ahsoka uses the Force to toss another guard into the line of fire, buying Sabine enough time to shoot her grapple line and hook the shooter. She reels him in, and Ahsoka finishes him off with her blade.
This is an interesting, like you said, working in concert.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it was that drove them apart, clearly this comes from experience, from working together.
Yes.
Mhm.
This is not their first rodeo together.
No, absolutely. See how much Sabine fights like Mando too?
So
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Din Djarin is not the only blaster magnet that wears Mandalorian
But I mean,
armor.
even the tucks and the rolls and the pop up and the
Yeah,
fire and
yeah,
the way she, like, they've created a Mandalorian like martial art,
Mandalorian style.
and and she follows it pretty closely. It was actually beautiful to see her, because I've been worried that they were nerfing her a bit, and I mean, I'm okay now
To see her, to see her sort of off the leash, as it were.
and it's kind of I think it's got a lot to do with the helmet too, like letting go and the constraints she puts on herself when she's trying to wield the Force. I don't think she has those beneath the mask.
Yeah, it's almost the Batman Bruce Wayne analogy.
Yeah, like the confidence booster, right?
Yeah.
But the fight is over as swiftly as it began, and the Forest goes silent. Morgan was right to assume that Balin's guards wouldn't be very effective against our master and apprentice. Hu Yang stands and gives his head a couple knocks, and then turns to Ahsoka and Sabine and tells them, "Well, that'll set me back a bit," as the ship sparks behind him. Ahsoka tells him to prioritize the transmitter over everything else, as she needs him to contact General Syndulla as soon as possible. Ahsoka and Sabine turn to make for the base, but Hu Yang asks a favor of them. They turn back and he asks that they stay together, because they always did better that way, in his opinion. And Ahsoka tells him, "We better get going." And Sabine bows and adds, "Together." Giving, and Hu Yang gives a relieved, "Oh, very good."
It's a contrast to, the way that he spoke to Sabine in the hospital and that conversation, like, well, you didn't have to tell her that.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling the truth.
Yeah.
First time we get to see her smile since, like, maybe she met Grogu.
Yeah,
really.
And that's what I say here next. Ahsoka gives him a smile, and Sabine puts on her helmet, and the two dart off into the forest. And Hu Yang calls out, "They'll thank him," as they rush out of sight. And there's that Rebels humor kind of peeking through again, right?
I've been of the opinion, and I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. There are tons of comments online about Rosario's performance maybe being a little stiff, and I wonder now if that's been an intentional, like, to portray the tension between Sabine and Ahsoka. And now that tension is starting to, we're starting to get through that. She's starting to relax. They're both getting more comfortable with each other. We're starting to see more coming through.
Yeah, well, we definitely see more coming through later this episode, like incredibly through.
Yeah.
But again, they just finished fighting.
Stakes are high too. I mean, like, like you're back on the verge of galactic civil war.
Yeah.
You're singularly bent. It's not like, I mean, I saw a lot of posts like, why aren't Luke and Leia involved?
Yeah,
like, why doesn't she go right to the, or right to the New Republic? I'm sure Ahsoka has, if she were to go with Hera and lay it on the line, instead of speculation.
Well, there's nothing to say that she doesn't, or that doesn't happen in the future.
No,
Hera
absolutely.
basically.
I'm not counting on that, but
no.
Because Hera did, and they basically laughed at her because it was just because it was coming from her.
Yep.
Right. Oh, you're just after Ezra again. But anyway, we cut back to space and find Home One surrounded by the New Republic fleet.
Oh my God!
Impressive looking fleet.
I didn't say anything when we looked at the shots before. We had the big, when I said back in the trailer, I'm like, this might be Home One. And then it was like, well, another,
nailed it.
And it was Home One. We got it in the episode. And if there was any complaint, it was like, this is very digital and it looked so beautiful. But then to see it again from this angle, and I don't know if it's the lighting, I don't know if it's the textures, I don't know if they actually lifted this from Return of the Jedi, but that, whether that is an animated model or a physical object, looks so much like the home one we saw in Return of the Jedi. This might be the most beautiful presentation of this ship we've ever seen.
It's nice. It's
I
a
love it.
great
Oh, yeah.
shot.
I love it.
But we go inside and we see that General Hera Syndulla is crossing the docking bay floor with Jason and Chopper in tow as others go about their day. There's New Republic pilots, gonk droids, and even a Ketarian.
What?
A Ketarian?
I didn't even know what that is.
Well, some people were misidentifying this little fellow as an Ewok, but he's most definitely not.
Not an Ewok. No, absolutely not an Ewok.
I thought that in a flash at the beginning too. I think it's the swoop of the helmet. Looks like
like
the leather hood.
The leather hood. Yeah.
Here's the thing though, because we had this conversation privately, and it's like post Endor, I would love to see an Ewok
just out in the
somewhere.
Oh yeah,
in the New Republic. And I think it would even be more interesting if they drove it home and the thing spoke, even if it was broken, but basic.
Yeah.
There's basic.
Ewok Jedi and Legends, man.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. But this particular species here, it first appeared in The Last Jedi at the casino on Canto Bight. And it's popped up a couple of times since in The Mandalorian and even in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got to reuse those costumes somehow.
Exactly. From behind, Lieutenant Vic Hawkins calls out to Hera, and she beckons Jason and Chopper to continue to the ship. And turning around and facing Lieutenant, she tells him she's not just going to sit around and do nothing. And Hawkins, he kind of stutters that she can't leave without authorization. But Hera gives him this perfect, quirky look and tells him, watch her, before she turns towards the ship. And Hawkins, he pleads that there's a meeting of the general staff and questions what he should tell them. And she replies, you'll think of something, as she continues to stride forward.
Yeah, Mr. Sarcasm. Now it's up to you.
Yeah.
Didn't like your sarcastic attitude last week. Now you got to deal with it.
Flustered, the lieutenant begins muttering to himself something, think of something, think of something. We cut to the interior of the Ghost, and here's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but Hera has a photo of Kanan on her console, like so many other pilots or soldiers with the photo.
Yeah. So I didn't catch this the first time around, and admittedly, it wasn't until it started making the rounds on the internet. And I think, Hank, you had sent it over going, is that a black and white photo? And I'm
yeah. And then it started being everywhere on the internet.
So big. I'm like, is that not that looks like a turtle laying on the dashboard. That's what that looks like.
Yeah, but when you zoom up and blow out the contrast and stuff, it's pretty clear.
My wife is convinced that is Freddie Prinze Jr.
You know, it might be.
And, you know, we've talked about Freddie Prinze Jr. We've talked about his public perceptions or his public expressions on Star Wars is that, you know, it's diluted, and he was remorseful, if not regretting, his contribution to the Rise of Skywalker
and the Bad Batch. Apparently,
I would say that
he protests too much.
I think he playeth the Andrew Garfield.
Yeah,
I'm not in that movie.
Lauren says, I sure hope so.
I do as well. Have you looked at a recent, like a shot of Freddy this year?
I haven't.
He's age appropriate. He's totally age appropriate to pull that off. And I hope that it is.
It'll be nice to see.
We all hope stuff when we're as fans, right?
Yeah.
I'm with you, Lauren. I want it to be him too.
Aboard the Ghost, Hera takes her seat and begins procedures for liftoff. And Jason asks his mom why he has to do what he's told to do when she doesn't. And from the back seat, Chopper chimes in with a, yeah, what's up with that? She tells him when he's a general, then he can disobey orders too. But until then, buckle up. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure Chopper tells him something along the line of, better buckle up.
I was batting that better buckle up or listen to your mom kind of.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on that one.
Yeah.
I would love to be privy to the ADR sessions with Dave when he's recording these lines, because he's speaking
I bet
English.
The dialogue is written, right? Like
for sure,
just like they did for Chewie in
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But as the Ghost exits Home 1, 5 X-wings quickly surround the ship, and over the radio, Hera says, "Thanks for joining the party, Carson."
My turn.
Nailed it.
Yep.
There it is.
Captain Carson Tava responds over the comm, "Wouldn't miss it, General." And we cut to the cockpit of Carson's X-wing, and he tells her that she's risking an awful lot by doing this. But she tells him he knows how it is. Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Yep. Anybody disappointed that we didn't get a certain purple dude on the roll call here?
We got to save something for the last couple episodes.
Yeah.
I was disappointed. Oh, there we go.
I
Sarah
said it in the chat. I said,
Sarah,
yeah.
I was convinced Zeb would be flying one of the X-Wings.
Yeah.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not the only one who was disappointed.
But based on what happens, I'm kind of glad he wasn't.
Okay, well, there is that. But I mean, you think they would have let him?
I don't know.
The question is, when we get there, who's left?
Exactly.
Who's left? Because there's two of them. It's Carson and at least one other pilot.
Yeah.
Right.
Who is it?
Lauren says, we need a pirate's help.
Hey.
But Carson chuckles and then announces, on your scene, goal, Phoenix leader. And the squadron then lines up preparing to jump.
Nice.
But before we move forward, let's pause a moment and dial in on that patch on Hera's shoulder.
Oh,
there.
sure. Yeah.
It's the Starbird, also known as the Wren Phoenix crest.
Yeah.
Designed by Sabine Wren and used basically as her personal signature. The design was based off of the Starbird of ancient legend, which stated, a Starbird can never die. And if it seems to be gone, it's just renewing itself at the heart of a nova.
That's cool.
Sabine, she drew inspiration from the protest paintings created by Janor of Bith, who we have pictured here. And she would often vandalize Imperial propaganda posters with it.
Yeah.
She would also paint it on her chest plate armor and eventually became her trademark. On more than one occasion, she would paint it on stuff with a concoction of her own making that would actually result in an explosion.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a bird that blows up.
Explosive paint.
Yeah.
Nice.
But by 3 BBY, the use of this logo had spread among the members of the rebellion, and they would often use it to mark escape routes through multiple cities and towns. And eventually it would be combined with the 3-prong symbol used by Saw Gerrera to create that final Rebel Alliance Starbird.
I gotta wonder, the Saw Gerrera thing was new for me. I didn't know that until reading about it a little earlier this week. But like, do you think that was an in memoriam to Saw to combine that emblem like posthumously, or were we? I don't think it was. I think they adopted it before, because by the time we get to Rogue One, the first time we see him in live action, they've already adopted. I mean, the formal alliance already exists.
I mean, basically, you're taking all the different rebel cells and putting them all together, right?
Yeah, I bet you there's a bunch of symbols, coming
got co-opted into other ways. Yeah. At that point, though, maybe maybe he wasn't at the time that they combined them. Maybe he was still in the good graces of.
Well, I mean, you go back into Andor, and they're still trying to recruit him. He's still got value to them instead of the opposite. Like, we're trying to find him to stop him from doing the crazy stuff.
Yeah,
they're actively like, let's get this guy on board because
right.
Yeah, because he's still bringing some value. But
that's true.
The Starbird itself hasn't actually appeared anywhere yet.
The actual creature?
Yeah.
Not that I can think of. No.
Its first appearance so far that I'm told is the High Republic Volume 2, Issue 2.
Yep.
In a comic book, and it's literally just a statue of it.
Okay.
So
cool.
Whether or not it's going to show up at some point, who knows? But while we're on the subject of the bird, let's talk a moment about the Phoenix Squadron.
Oh, sure.
They have a long history going back to early rebellion, and they were one of the largest rebel cells that became part of the Alliance. Basically, an elite starfighter unit led by Commander Jun Sato. They first appeared in season 2 episodes of Star Wars Rebels, The Siege of Lothal, and the Ghost Crew worked alongside them throughout the rebellion, and they were almost decimated by Thrawn's forces in the season 3 finale of Rebels, but what was left would continue on joining the Masasi group. Hera would eventually lead the Phoenix Squadron, which, as we see in this episode, continued on after the fall of the Empire. And our squadron here today, in addition to Paul Sung-Haing, Lee, his Captain Karsateva, we consist of, we have Lieutenant Basie, played by Michael C. Alexander. He hasn't had many lead roles, but he's been in over 50 previous roles.
Oh, wow.
Including Young Sheldon, Runaways, and The Bold and the Beautiful.
Okay.
Next, we have the Rhodian Lieutenant Moat, played by Dawn Dininger. She's been our go-to Rhodian now for a number of roles, including Rhodian Customer in The Mandalorian, and Rhodian Mom, and Rhodian Prisoner in the Book of Boba
I was going to say the one that got krakened in the desert.
Yes, yes. She's also worked in the special effects department for multiple films, including Captain Marvel, Pacific Rim Uprising, X-Men Apocalypse, and The Shape of Water.
Cool. Very cool.
We also have Lieutenant Jensu, played by Chow Now. I'm apologizing if I mispronounce this one.
Chow Naomova?
Naomova? Yeah.
I think that's how you say that. Yeah.
This is only her second role. Her first
cool.
was Zubuki in the TV series Street Fighter Legends.
I haven't seen that.
I have not either.
Okay.
But last up, we have Lieutenant Lander, played by Brendan Wayne.
Woo-hoo.
And he's got 34 acting credits under his belt, including 9 episodes of The Mandalorian in the title role.
1/3 of the performance that is The Mandalorian.
Under the helmet, of course.
Yeah, that's cool.
He's also been in Sons of Anarchy as Rennie, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Fast and Furious, the fourth one.
The fourth one.
Yeah. So back here, Hera tells them that on their mark, and we flash through the order of the squadron members, and cutting back to the Ghost, Hera counts them down and lets Jason pull the lever to jump to hyperspace.
Punch it, Chewie.
Yeah.
I love it.
The 6 ships make the jump and they disappear.
Punch it, Jason.
We shift locations to a shot of the Eye of Sion floating above the henge on Cetos, and Balin and Morgan look up to the ship before turning and striding towards the center of the henge. She relays that once the guideline has been established, they will be able to calculate the hyperspace coordinates.
Not gonna lie, when I saw it in the atmosphere, I'm like, what are we doing? What is happening here?
I kind of wonder because of the center of it, right? Like they just lined it up right through the center of the ship. Like here's where you're going. Just
That's
keep
right,
going
yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
But there's all manner of instruments set up around the base. And like I say, they did bring all this stuff in, right? It's not just the engine.
Oh no, you're right.
But,
They did. They brought in a bunch of equipment.
Balin notes that if her calculations are off by even a little, they'll be lost forever to the depths of the void. And she tells him to have faith as she raises her hand above the map. But he retorts, he lost his faith long ago.
Mm-hmm.
So what caused him to lose his faith?
Man, do we think it has anything to do with the blind, how the order was blinded?
Maybe
The entire destruction of the order?
I think it's more specifically Anakin Skywalker and the way the order fell, and therefore either something revolving around the weakness over the order, therefore, or more specifically that evil could originate from within. I said this on Facebook a couple of days ago, and I got some likes for it. It was basically like somebody asked, why can't Luke feel his presence, like as a big dark side threat?
Sure.
I mean, because I don't think there's any dark side going on here at all.
Oh,
Rejecting the Jedi Order isn't rejecting the light side of the Force.
no,
that's true.
Ahsoka's
Of course
proven
it is.
that.
Yeah, for sure.
Now he does use a few, he uses a Sith ability on Sabine soon, and we'll get to that. But dabbling in the dark side, Ezra, Qui-Gon for that matter, Mace Windu, Luke. I mean, I bet you the list of people that have dipped their toe
Walked the line
is probably longer than the people that were like stalwart and absolutely true.
Sure.
Back here, a green flame glows and beneath the star map, and it rises up under Morgan's finger, and light begins to emanate from within, and the map of the galaxy appears.
One more time.
Yeah. With a flick of her wrist, the star chart angles for Morgan, and a golden guideline shoots forward towards the crescent shape at the top of one of the pillars, which happens to line up with the Eye of Sion.
How convenient is that?
Exactly. Balin watches on and calls it witchcraft.
Yeah, I think that's hugely important here.
Yeah.
Because
So
it's almost like Shin has been like, witchcraft? And he's like, no, not yet. Witchcraft?
Yeah.
No. But now it's like,
Now it's witchcraft.
I really do get the sense that there's something more going on with, at least with him. I mean, she's probably fairly surface in terms of her proximity to him. I mean, Shin and Balin. But I think there's something interesting going on with Balin. I mean, the will to power, that idea that, and tied in with the Macbeth idea, where you're putting somebody on the throne so that you can get rid of them and put yourself on the throne, or put somebody in your camp on the throne. And I don't know. I really dig what's going on with this character, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do as well.
Aboard the ship, a navigator droid begins calculating the precise coordinates, and on a control panel, numbers begin cycling. Elsewhere, we catch up with Sabine and Ahsoka sprinting through the forest, and their pace slows as they stop when they encounter both Shin and Merrick.
Dun, dun, dun.
The two duos size each other up before Shin jumps down from a log that she was standing on, and she fixes her gaze on Sabine and asks, "Going somewhere?" Ahsoka senses Sabine's shift, and the Mandalorian pulls her blasters and opens fire, but Shin blocks with her lightsaber, and the two square off, rushing into the woods. Ahsoka gives just a slight smile while Merrick pulls out and activates his dual-bladed lightsaber. Ahsoka activates her katana and twirls it into a reverse grip, and the two begin to circle. They continue to circle for a very tense moment before Merrick lunges forward and strikes first. Ahsoka easily blocks each strike, causing Merrick to step back and reset. Ahsoka switches to a two-handed grip on her katana saber, holding it in front of her. And meanwhile, Shin continues to run and momentarily turning back to deflect blaster fire from Sabine before rushing on. Shin then jumps through a tree for cover, and buying herself a moment, she force pushes Sabine back, slamming her into a tree, causing her to lose her blasters and helmet. Sabine is only down for a second, though, as Shin rushes forward, but the Mandalorian leaps out of the way, and Shin cuts down the tree with her blade. Sabine rolls and grabs her lightsaber, igniting it just in time to block Shin's incoming strike. The two combatants trade strikes, and we cut back to Ahsoka and Merrick. And Merrick tries attacking from multiple angles, but Ahsoka blocks him at every turn. Back at the henge, Baylan paces as Morgan watches the sky. Close by, a second navigation droid monitors the calculations as they begin to finally start locking in. We cut back over the forest, and Merrick steps back as Ahsoka raises her saber over her head and waits for the false Jedi to make his move. These scenes, though, they're framed so perfectly using the forest, like the trees and everything there.
There's a blink and you miss it moment where Merrick actually uses the Tracata, the forbidden move, where he's locking sabers with, and he turns it on and off, and she falls through. I mean, she's more skilled than he is, but it does catch her off guard. It's a seriously blink and you'll miss it moment, but it's I mean, you do a little research on the maneuver, and it's like forbidden by the Sith and the Jedi. It's the most uncouth thing you can do in a dishonorable thing.
It's weird. Like, you know, we're talking about, I can get behind the Jedi saying don't do this.
I get
the
it too.
Sith?
Yeah, I get it too.
I have a hard
apparently
time.
It was just like, if you can't defeat your enemy outright, like, you know,
take them with you.
But they're all tricks. So,
well, that's it though. Like
Kylo Ren used that in Last Jedi, did he not?
Yeah, absolutely did.
Yeah.
Well, it was more like he caught it and then bomb.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess that's a form of it, but it's more specifically talked about like when you're locking sabers.
Ahsoka did it.
Ahsoka does it to the HK.
To the HK droid.
Well, she wasn't locking sabers. It's more specifically about locking sabers.
Dueling, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Bad form, Jack.
I'm trying to picture a Jedi and a Sith coming together and having this conversation and going, okay, we won't do that. Yeah,
not in the face.
What? That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. Cutting back to Ahsoka and Merrick, he begins to spin his blade, as we've seen the Inquisitors do so many times before in Rebels.
Yeah, we're gonna helicopter that thing.
Yeah, in an impressive display, but still, Ahsoka waits. Merrick moves to strike, blade spinning at a blistering speed, but I think I skipped one here.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I'm a slide behind.
Oh, that's fine.
But Ahsoka sidesteps him, and with one strike, she falls her opponent.
Remember back when we were talking about this in the
trailer section?
Yeah, and Hank, I think you said when he becomes nothing more than a speed bump.
Nailed it.
Sarah says
your Merrick theory sucks.
Sarah says Ahsoka's killing strike on Merrick was so stylish and epic.
I agree. It reminded me of the Maul Obi-Wan fight in the desert. One strike, done.
Yeah,
like very samurai.
There's a fight in Lone Wolf and Cub where one of the first times they actually tried that sort of spraying blood effect.
Yeah,
and the effect went overboard, and it became the norm to have that giant mass of gushing blood. But that was actually a prop malfunction.
Oh,
and they
no.
just left it in, and it became sort of normal. But it,
Guess that's
yeah,
what we're doing
fully
for all,
reminded me of that stuff. Yeah,
all martial arts movies now must have gushing.
prop failure.
Yeah. But as Ahsoka stands after her fatal strike, Marok's blade slows to a stop. And like you had said there,
oh, that's hilarious. You know, the best part of this, besides what it actually says, is that
It's in the Kenner
it's
font?
in the Kenner font, and that's pretty good with me.
it's making the rounds right now.
As it should. Can we stick with this for a second?
Yeah, let's stick with this for a second.
I talked about this a little bit last week, and I definitely I've talked to you, Andy, and to you, Hank, about this. And I am giggling over how badly we just got trolled by Dave.
I feel like we were pretty close at the end. Like, I feel like we were pretty close. We were starting to go, could it be somebody possessed by a Night Sister? I mean, we were all around it. If we weren't on the green, man, we were in the throughway for sure.
You know, I'm not immune to all of the stuff that's been going on online because of that. And yes, are we guilty of feeding the machine the spec? Of course, but that's part of the fun.
Yeah, you're hoping to see something.
Do I feel any less, or do I feel
betrayed
because
no.
it did? No,
he got
been part of the fun. And the part for me, like I said, I'm fairly convinced that they know at this point that this is what we as the fan community are doing.
Yeah.
We are microscopically analyzing this stuff right down
looking
to like
clues to
what color is the flea poop on his fur.
Like Dave said it himself. If you were at the round table when they're talking about getting ready to do this show, it's us sitting around talking about what they've done with the show.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, what if this? No, what if that? And I mean, they just get paid to do it.
Yeah. I liked it, and I actually had a big grin on a big poop eating grin on my face when Marok went down, and I'm yep, he's just Marok. Yep.
But as Ahsoka stands over her fatal strike, Marok's blade slow to a stop, and the deep wound smoking through his torso is visible. Sabine and Shin's duel has brought them back into the area of Ahsoka, and they continue to lock sabers. But suddenly, a thick, dark green smoke erupts from Marok's wound, similar to the fates of many resurrected Night Brothers before him. And in addition to the green smoke, we also see that his arm kind of deteriorates as it leaves.
Man, I danced around this quite a bit. I went the Savage Opress route initially. I'm like, oh, so it's he's a Night Brother. Rewatched the Savage Opress death scene. We watched his horns revert back to normal size, but then I watched it again. I'm like, but wait, his arm withers away damn near skeletal proportions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I'm like, maybe he wasn't a Night Brother. The canon entry for the Night Sisters say that some of the most powerful ones could reanimate the dead.
That's right.
Is he literally an undead? Is that what we're watching here?
I mean that's final answer.
Yeah.
They killed the Inquisitor that came after them, and she reanimated him, and there's our golem.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that.
Makes the most sense, and it doesn't.
And it pretty much connects his origins.
Doesn't hammer into anything else. Right?
It does, and it that informs us of how powerful Morgan Elsbeth really is, because
even though she might not be letting on that she is.
I mean, I thought about this, and this is the first time I've had a chance to talk about it with you guys. It's like, we don't know how long that Marok has been walking around in this state. So did this happen
recently,
like a long time ago? Was this somebody else? Was this even Mother Talzin's work, and it's just lasted that long? Of course, she's dead by this point, so you would think if she's dead, the magic would
dissipate, or
you would think something like that. I think this is Morgan's handiwork. I think she's responsible for this. Yeah.
It also fits better with the Arthurian connections for the name Merrick, right?
Right.
Because he was one of the servants for King Arthur who was cursed by a witch, which explains his current situation, but it doesn't completely tell us who he was before Morgan got a hold of him.
I do believe, though, let's go back to the Night Brother thing. Like, could she reanimate? I guess she could reanimate just anybody. But I actually, to me, and to my way of thinking, I don't have any trouble accepting that there is a male Zabrak under that armor. The flare of the helmet could accommodate a set of horns easily.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with not ever knowing.
Yeah.
So,
but like, in this frame here, the last one, you see his arm and it's still somewhat
it's
meaty.
relatively,
then we jump to our
normal.
next frame here.
Yeah.
And it's
withered away to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I looked at it a couple of times over, I'm like, yeah, that's not just reverting to normal, like
no, it's
like Savage Opress. That's like, oh, that's something else.
Yeah. But
creepy.
And speaking of creepy, as the smoke flows forth from the fallen Inquisitor, he lets out like a death scream.
Oh yeah,
that catches both Shin and Sabine off guard, both taking notice. And I don't know if it's just me, but it seemed really similar to the one heard coming out of the Eighth Brother as he kind of fell to his death in season 2 and Twilight of the Apprentice Part 2.
Oh wow, are we gonna circle back to that? So it really was the Eighth Brother reanimated?
Maybe, I don't know.
That's cool.
But cool. It had a similar sound for me. But Shin steps back from Sabine and at the sight of her fallen comrade, and Sabine calls out to Ahsoka, go and get the map. I've got this. Ahsoka gives a slight nod and then rushes towards the ground base. And now alone in the forest, Sabine and Shin square off, and Shin looks at her with a hateful gaze and tells her that you will regret this decision. But Sabine steels herself, ready for Shin's attack. And we see Shin swing, but the camera cuts to the ground base where Morgan Elsbeth checks on the progress of their flight path. And pleased with her progress, she tells Baylan that she's going to prepare for their departure and instructs him to protect the map until she sends for him, leaving him seemingly alone at the site. Because like there was a whole bunch of people here a few minutes ago, they've all cleared out.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah.
Ahsoka arrives just in time to see Morgan's ship speed off, and she pauses a moment, but the map is still active. So she approaches cautiously, and stepping inside the projection, she finds Baylan seated on a stone, fully cloaked. He opens the conversation saying Anakin spoke very highly of her.
And there's the line.
Yeah, but she coyly replies, Anakin never mentioned him. He rises and removes his cloak, continuing that everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became. Surely that must leave a mark. Is that why you walked away, abandoned him?
Did anybody see the meme that came out this week?
I don't think so.
Talking about, but very few lived to see what he became. I saw it today. It was a shot of Baylan and the kid from Revenge of the Sith. Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?
Oh no.
It doesn't line up with Ray Stevens' age, but right. I mean, it was like, oh.
That's true. It's curious though that he seems. I mean, and he could have just read her mind.
True.
That is true.
To know that information, but he also doesn't know that she left before that, which was absolutely public knowledge to the Jedi.
Her trial,
yeah,
of course,
everything. You know, like that would have been. Everybody would have been talking about that. Interesting.
Casting her own cloak aside, she bluntly tells Baylan she's not here to discuss her past. Ahsoka moves forward, and Baylan tells her that the only reason he's there is to secure the future. And she questions, for you? And he replies, something far greater. Ahsoka calls him ambitious, but he retorts, necessary.
He's got these little quips, like right from the first episode.
Yeah. The way he's playing it is just spectacular.
Yeah.
It's actually a Sith ability. I can't even remember the name of the ability, but every Sith we've ever seen, except for possibly Darth Maul, and Darth Maul uses it in the animated series quite heavily, but in live action doesn't use it in the fight against Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. But and it's keeping your opponents off guard with trash talk, essentially. Palpatine uses it. Vader, I can sense your sister. I wonder if she'll turn. You know, Dooku taunting everyone he ever fights. It's a common Sith. It's got a name. I'll have to look it up and throw it in the chat later. But it is a Sith ability. It's an on-purpose force ability.
Nice. She then asks if he thinks that starting another war is necessary, and Baylan tells her that he won't be starting the war, but Thrawn will. He goes on to tell her that it's an unfortunate evil, but speaks to a greater truth. one must destroy in order to create. And Ahsoka,
what is it that he wants to create?
Yeah, exactly.
See, the Padawan braid on his apprentice makes me think he's got some twisted path for the Jedi.
That he wants to rebuild the order in a new
image.
Yeah.
But Ahsoka, she doesn't speak. She just moves for her lightsaber, and Baylan reaches for his own and cites how inevitable. Ahsoka is first to ignite her blade, then Baylan, and Ahsoka begins to circle, but Baylan keeps himself positioned between the map and her. She pauses and moves into one of the 5 Kame stances, the Waki Kame, inviting Baylan to attack. But instead, he just tightens up his grip, moving into a more solid Shicho's form. And with this, Ahsoka swiftly strikes first, but Baylan matches her strike for strike. And I love the amount of detail that they're paying to, like, even the stance in this.
Yeah, there has been a lot of focus on this duel in terms of like actual sword technique.
Yes.
And I mean, I have liked, and I still do, and as much as I can see the Japanese influence in this, I'm still in this position where, I mean, Baylan is obviously the Star Wars version of a European knight-like combatant. His big power strokes kind of reflect that.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that he fights in a way that we haven't seen a whole lot of.
No. It's kind of like relying on your anger, but not relying on your anger. Like,
yeah, I gotta wonder if
power
that's
swing, right?
If this is what, some form of Vapad, right? The same thing that Mace Windu.
Yeah.
Same style that Mace Windu would use.
Yeah, but reading into the Japanese fighting stances, like the one she adopts here, is your left arm forward and exposed, is basically inviting your opponent to attack, which will get him away from the map.
Right.
But he doesn't take the bait.
Oh, that's true.
So that's true. Forces her to shift gears and attack first. But after she strikes, the 2 combatants step back, measuring each other's movements. And Ahsoka moves into a Chuden no Kame stance. And this time, Baylan actually moves into strike first. Ahsoka counters, then dodges Baylan's swing, leaping off a nearby rock and almost landing one of her own. And with every thrust, Ahsoka is going for the kill. But we see Baylan beginning to rely on his strength to try and overpower Ahsoka.
I will say this about this fight. We've had a couple of lightsaber duels now in the series.
Yeah.
This is the first time that I was consciously aware that, that's her stunt double. It was so glaringly obvious that they touched some of the face in some of the more acrobatic moves, but it made me think about just how much on-camera work Rosario is actually doing, that this is the first time I've noticed, that's a stunt double. Props to Rosario for how much she's actually doing.
Yeah.
There's a really good scene here where they traded strength and weirdly enough, like Ahsoka keeps up. Like the first one is when she pins his sword to the deck and he basically just powers through it, cutting the floor as he's bringing it up. Yeah. And then you actually have a shot of the second one where he pins her sword to the hinge behind her and she brings it around just with sheer strength over her head, like matching him.
Yeah.
I mean, as hard as the fight was, I didn't think for a second it wasn't going her way.
Yeah, I got the distinct impression that he was on the defensive.
Yeah, like she
entire duel.
If she wasn't distracted by the orb, she was tuning him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't get it that way. I thought he was actually measuring her. The whole fight was his way of measuring her in totality. Do you know what I mean? Because ultimately, he does win. Do you know what I mean? Like,
distractionary, but
yeah.
But
I don't think that he was. I mean,
I don't want to get too far ahead of us because it's probably the next slide.
Yeah,
but
I believe so.
She puts him on the ground. If she's smart, she kills him there instead of going for the orb. But goes for the orb.
Yeah.
But we shift here for a second up to the on board the Eye of Sion, and Morgan crosses the command deck and notes that the progress on the calculation is on course. But the one droid informs her that the Jedi has engaged Baylan at the hedge, and she asks the droid how long until they receive the final coordinates, and the droid responds, moments.
These droids have these ambiguous, like,
give me a time frame.
she didn't like it when they're no longer appear on our scopes. Like, what kind of answer is that? How long is this going to take? Moments.
Yeah.
What?
Where's C-3PO with his like 4,720 to 1?
And 2,500 ticks, like something.
Yeah. But back below, Ahsoka and Baylan continue their duel, and Ahsoka is on the offense, Baylan relying on his strength to defend. And he manages to force her back a step, and then with the force, launches a rock at her, but she cleaves it in two in one twisting motion. And then with...
I'm not going to lie. For half a second, I thought he clocked her with it. Because the way that she cuts through
super
it,
fast.
She does a forward stroke through it, right?
Yeah.
But with each dodge and strike, Ahsoka tries to get closer to that star map, and the map within reach, she tries to grab it, but she has to pull back to avoid Baylan's strike cutting her off. And we get a glimpse of the panel, and it's showing us that another chunk of the calculations have been locked in. And she goes for the map multiple times until finally Baylan catches Ahsoka by the arm and throws her back. We cut back to the forest, and Sabine and Shin continue to square off, and we get a shot of Sabine's helmet from the perspective of the ground as the two battle in the distance. Shin continues to back Sabine up until she hits her in the face, staggering her. With a few more strikes, she manages to knock the lightsaber from her hands, forcing her to block with her wrist gauntlets, and with a forward kick, she's knocking Sabine to the ground. But Sabine moves to force push Shin back, and it's a great moment, right?
What I really liked about this one is that Shin winces, like she's anticipating, like she's about to get it, and then nothing happens, and she's like,
"Yeah."
I don't agree that nothing happens.
I wonder, like, did like a little breeze or something go by her?
I think she slapped her in the face.
Maybe
but nothing
that
more.
Could work too.
Watch the scene again. The sound of the sound cue that Sabine used the force there is absolutely there.
Interesting.
A seasoned Padawan who's as good at fighting as her wouldn't flinch at the thought of the force coming at them, but she gets slapped in the face there, and not a big one.
I thought the other way. I actually thought that
she was prepping.
I don't think Shin is as
advanced.
Yeah, and I think she genuinely was like anticipating.
Little column A, column B, but there's that the audio cue is there, and I think it was just a little like,
yeah.
Because
I'm definitely going to go back and rewatch that scene because I think that's an interesting perspective.
But she definitely turns her head or gets the slap.
Yeah,
but very little to nothing happens, and she turns back, telling Sabine, "You have no power." But Sabine is far from helpless, and she launches 2 wrist rockets at Shin, knocking her lightsaber from her hand.
I did like that.
Yeah,
I did like that.
Back at the henge, Ahsoka continues to strike at Baylan, and with their blades locked, Baylan tells Ahsoka that her legacy, like her master's, is one of death and destruction.
Oh, wrong thing
But
to say.
Ahsoka powers out, and with 3 well-placed kicks, she knocks him down.
Yeah, I think she actually gets a little. I think she gets a little mad here.
Yeah,
genuinely mad, like angry.
Oh yeah.
But with her opponent down, she goes right for the star map and grabs the orb, and the hologram of the galaxy fades, and she has to physically pull it from its hole.
Well, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do.
But we see a little bit of cinders and whatnot flying from her hand.
Seriously.
And the golden guideline fades from sight. And with one last pull, she breaks it free of its position. But she's burned her hand in the process, and she cries out and drops the orb as a crack of thunder rings out. And the orb rolls by into a nearby patch of roughage.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I was gonna say, can we make that analogy now? Are we gonna Are we betting that it's on her palm?
So she's wearing a glove too.
Yeah.
Get to that here in a second.
Okay.
Because we got a little bit of photographic evidence.
Oh, cool.
Excellent.
All right. I'd like to see that.
In the forest, Sabine holds Shin at bay, and the crack of thunder reaches them, causing a momentary distraction. And Shin throws a smoke bomb at Sabine, making her escape.
Very ninja-like.
Yeah, man.
Ninja vanish.
Ninja.
But finding herself alone, Sabina grabs her lightsaber and rushes towards the henge. On board the Eye of Sion, Morgan demands to know what happened, and the navigator droid relays that something has happened at the source, and the calculations are incomplete. So we shift back down to the ground, and Ahsoka is still reeling from the burn, but Baylan is up and striding towards her with purpose, and he tells her that was unwise. He swings with a heavy downstroke, and he presses the attack, forcing Ahsoka back to the edge of the cliff. And looking past Baylan, Ahsoka spies Shin enter the henge, and he barks at her, "Get the map." And fearing the worst, Ahsoka utters Sabine's name, then reaches out with the Force, and she violently chokes Shin.
That's what I mean. Like, she got mad.
She did. Like, oh crap, you're here. That means you've bested my Padawan. I just lost her.
Yeah, she's thinking the worst.
Who said that line? I am no Jedi.
Yeah, she
Was
did.
that Ahsoka? Oh, it was.
I believe so.
Oh yeah.
Like, not only does she choke her, she violently flings her into the stone.
Yeah.
pillars
A
and,
little bit of
just takes her right off.
I mean, you had said it that first the Jedi episode of The Mandalorian, where she's moving through the woods like a ninja, and she's utterly slaying people. She's not disarming guys.
Nope.
She's beheading people.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a different Ahsoka, man.
Sarah's got a comment.
Yeah, what's she say here?
Sarah on YouTube says, I think Ahsoka uses the dark side a bit when she thinks Shin has killed Sabine. Ahsoka's force throw of Shin was brutal.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that might even be more than dipping your toe in.
That's 2 toes.
Yeah.
2 toes, maybe right up to like the, up to your ankle.
But with his apprentice down, Baylan aggressively continues his assault. He knocks Ahsoka closer to the edge, and locking blades again, he tells her it didn't need to come to this, but she knows no other way. And Ahsoka is now using the Force to help hold back Baylan's blade. And if we look real close at the bottom left shot there, you can see a little bit of the pattern.
Yeah, and I mean,
in there.
I was focused on that when I was watching the episode too. And when we had that conversation in our private chat about like, oh, did she just Raiders that thing? Is it going to be? And I said the same thing. There is an impression in the glove.
Yep.
Did it transfer through to the palm of the hand? Ultimately,
I believe it did, because there's still a little bit of a glowing line there.
Yeah, it does look like it was burnt right through.
I'm curious to know
complete map. Or they're digging in the wrong place.
Map. That's right. Yeah. If they don't have an Eye of Sion hyperspace ring of their own,
true.
What good is having it on the back of your hand going to do?
They still have all the stuff at the Republic to build it.
Pearls. We'll get to that. Yeah.
But from behind them, Sabine calls out, "Stop!" And Ahsoka, relieved to see her, calls out and tells her, "Destroy the map." And we do see those glowing imprints on Ahsoka's hand.
Yep.
She holds it at blaster point, but instead yells for Baylan to step away from Ahsoka. And instead, he strikes one last blow, knocking Ahsoka over the edge. Sabine cries out, "No!"
I like the sparky, like the sparks off of the blow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then proceeds to unload her blaster at Baylan, but he blocks every shot. Seeing that he's still advancing, she turns the blaster back towards the map again. And Baylan tells her she should do as her master asked. Destroy the map. It's what she would have done.
I'm swearing at her like it's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell you what I was saying. But it was very crass.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point of the episode, this might be where I might have stood up. What the are you doing?
I called her everything under the sun. You purple-haired witch. What are you doing?
I'm like, first she takes the thing, at Lothal after for Ridley, do not take this. Don't take it. And the droids get it. And now, what are you doing?
I mean, every Padawan ever, realistically, every Padawan ever, quite honestly. But it's so pivotal. I was just savage, idiot.
Yeah,
Sabine.
We all agree on that.
Yeah, she hesitates, and Baylan cites that Sabine isn't like Ahsoka. She counters more than you know.
Yeah,
but Baylan closes his eyes a moment and deactivates his lightsaber, and he tells Sabine that he knows that she feels like Ezra Bridger is the only family she has left. And Sabine counters that he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he states that that's what's holding her back.
Is that another?
I think that's him kind of dipping for info, right?
Is this another, like Hank, you had said with Baylan and Ahsoka, he could have been reading her surface thoughts.
Because he does. He closes his eyes for a moment and kind of reaches out.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Sabine, or he continues that her family died on Mandalore because her master didn't trust her. And
that's
Sabine's
interesting
focus is visibly thrown by this.
That's crazy interesting. That's a
big family
toss out there.
Yeah.
That's a big toss out there. The Night of 1,000 Tears, right? That we're like, now we're really connecting back to the Mandalorian and season 3. Having been to Mandalore and seen the nomads roaming the land because it's green glass. and having it directly have something to do with Sabine, that's some heavy stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. But using this visible confusion, he steps closer and tells her they have a common goal to make this journey. Sabine to be reunited with her lost friend, and for him to serve a greater good.
Oh, what is that?
Yeah. But then he plays his hand fully and he tells Sabine, come with me, willingly. And on my word, no harm will come to you.
It's literally Vader and Luke, and we'll rule together as father and son.
Yeah, but instead of that, though, he's using this most comforting voice.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
And he
his
tells
methodology is a little different, but
Yeah, and he tells her flat out, Sabine, you will be reunited with your friend.
wow.
And
In binders, but hey.
yeah, but this whole time he's been like just edging closer and closer and closer until finally, hand out, and he reaches for the map and tells her, it's the only way. Do it for Ezra.
Do it.
Yeah, there's that.
I mean, you knew she was going to do it. I didn't want her to.
No.
I knew she was going to. And I mean,
I question whether or not the blaster would have actually done anything in the
well, it certainly would. It had it have done anything, would have taken her at least those 2 fingers off her hand.
Probably.
You know what I mean? Like as soon as she would put the gun to it in her hand, I'm like, you're not going to do it. You'd at least put it on the ground and like,
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe he would have
throw it in the ocean.
Seriously, yeah,
go diving for her. That'll take you some time.
I called her a 9/11 pedophile.
Wow.
But
Wow.
The music here is incredibly tense, and you can see the conflict on Sabine's face as she's weighing her options, right?
Yeah.
But she relents, and Sabine places the orb in Balin's hand. She breathes heavy, but then she begins to choke and drops on the ground, revealing Shin Hati now awake and force choking her. Balin tells her to release Sabine, and he has to tell her twice, which she finally does. And Shin takes Sabine's saber, and Balin states that he gave his word, and unlike her former master, he will keep it.
You know, I actually had a brief thought here at the beginning of this sequence when Shin turns up and like starts. I actually thought that Balin was going to make a play here and kill his own apprentice to take Sabine as a new apprentice.
Right. He might not be hung up on that rule of 2 action either way.
Yeah.
You know, all the Padawans in the world.
Yeah.
Really a lot of my what I think makes him tick in terms of especially the line of lost faith a long time ago.
Yep.
And then he seems to blame Anakin a few times for different things, maybe the state of the galaxy, the original war, blah, blah, blah. But there's a line here where he just says, I lost my train of thought, quite honestly. But he's blaming, Anakin specifically here, where he says he'll keep his word where Anakin wouldn't. Anakin's word being like a big picture thing, like I won't betray the Republic and kill all the younglings and all the Jedi, and like what word did he break? Like what did he? That's the word he broke, the big one, right? So like and it's so crazy because even though I'm screaming at her and I don't want her to do this, like if I'm in world, I trust him. It's messed up, but I actually trust him.
Interesting.
It looks like
you want to believe
your trust.
You want to believe that he's being sincere in his delivery.
Oh, he could still be chaotic neutral or even lawful evil, but the word and like because he could have just doesn't
he
cost.
Could have force choked her himself.
Sure, it doesn't cost him anything to let Shin kill.
No,
him right
it does not.
No, and what is the greater good? There's so many friggin' questions.
I know. Yeah, and I don't want to get too far ahead of us. We're not going to get the answer next week either.
No, it's too early.
It'll take a lot more than that. Yeah.
He holds the orb over the pedestal, and the green flame erupts from below. And very quickly, the holographic star map springs to life. And both Sabine and Shin kind of like, they're a little bit awestruck by this, which is weird because she's seen it a couple
She's seen it already, yeah.
But she's still taking notice. Aboard the Eye of Sion, the navigator droid relays that Lord Balin has remedied the situation, and with that, calculations for the hyperspace route are complete. So, I mean, a moment defined.
Yeah. Did anybody have any thought here that the New Republic forces were actually going to be able to stop them from jumping?
I thought they were just going to open fire.
That's what I thought too,
but
didn't happen.
No.
Why are you locking your S-foils in attack position then?
But Morgan tells her Saf to send the shuttle and retrieve Lord Balin. And meanwhile, Huyang continues to try and fix the transmitter. And with one final wire, Hera crackles across the speaker trying to contact Fulcrum. Huyang livens up and relays that they are downed on Cetos and they need assistance. And Hera replies, "We're already here." We cut to space and we see the Phoenix Squadron popping out of hyperspace. And Hera asks for details, and Huyang tells her of the giant hyperspace ring and how Ahsoka and Sabine are currently trying to stop it from the ground. And he implores them not to let that ship escape.
It's not the first time we've heard comms work through hyperspace either.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing too. It's not something that we see a whole lot in the movies. We do, I guess.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I was going to say in the sequel trilogy we do, but in the original and the prequels, it's not something that's really
explored.
Yeah.
Carson Teva radios that he's detected a ship, and Hera decides that they should cut across its path and block it. And the squadron veers off, and we shift back to the ground. Morgan radios to Balin that the calculations are complete and the shuttle is on its way. Balin acknowledges and walks towards the star map. And holding his lightsaber over it, he activates the blade, piercing the orb. But it doesn't just explode, it vibrates and shakes until finally, after a few moments, it cracks in two.
So let's go back to your, I don't know if the blaster would do anything. That's a great argument to be made. Like,
because he held that thing in there for
it's in there for a while. So. Yeah.
You need like a Star Trek phaser, you know how the heat rocks up.
But once it cracks in two, Balin plainly states, "No one will be following us.
No one will be following us."
And you can see Sabine reflecting on her choice, and Shin shoves her as they head towards the shuttle. Sabine looks back over the cliff edge, but she gets shoved again. And above the planet, I love this scene because the Eye of Sion rises up through the clouds. It's just epic and massive.
Did you notice that she's still rocking her saber on her belt?
Sabine is?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Still got her saber.
Well, they've let her keep it then.
Sans helmet.
For a second.
Yeah, because it's laying in the forest somewhere.
I'm sure that's important.
Yeah.
But where are we at here? One of the command deck droids relays that they have a clear line of sight and they are ready to make the jump. And zones are beginning to pressurize. And a really twisted smile comes across the face of Morgan Elsbeth. Her goals are now about to become a reality.
Yeah.
The Phoenix Squadron approaches the Eye, preparing to engage, but Lieutenant Moat notes that they're not launching any fighters, and Lieutenant Basie surmises that I don't think they plan on sticking around to fight.
We're about to get the original Holdo maneuver.
Yep. Morgan's shuttle returns to the Eye, and then very shortly we see Balin, Shin, and Sabine enter the bridge. Morgan turns to greet them, and she's slightly surprised by the presence of Sabine Wren.
I like this. It harkens back to, I know in the special edition they fleshed it out a whole lot more, but the cut from Vader, prepare my shuttle, to arriving back on the bridge of the Executor.
Yeah.
I really liked that. I liked it. Was good. Kept the pacing moving. It was great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, just then an alarm sounds, and one of the droids tells them that there's tracking 6 New Republic ships incoming, obstructing their path. And Sabine calls out Hera, but Morgan turns and instructs the droids, ignore them and engage the hyperdrive.
Run them over.
Yeah. The ship begins to hum and lights begin to flash. The engaging sounds grow louder, and Balin, Shin, and Sabine begin to look around like at all this flashing equipment as the noise grows steadily louder. Outside the ship, Phoenix Squadron draws ever closer, and inside the cockpit of the Ghost, an alarm sounds, and Hera asks Carson if he's reading this. And in Carson Teva's X-Wing, an alarm glares, and he notes there's a tremendous surge of power coming from the Eye. Hera, realizing that the Eye is about to jump to hyperspace, realizes it's too late. And I know you call it the original Holdo maneuver, but I'm calling this like the inverted one.
Sure.
Because the Eye of Sion blasts past the Phoenix Squadron, leaving them twisting in the wake.
Yeah. They actually passed the ring through them. Yeah.
And I guess it speaks to the size of the ship, but energy sparks within the wake, and the Phoenix Squadron, they're just tossed left and right, thrown around. Lieutenant Moat's ship sparks and explodes as it collides with another X-Wing, and Lieutenant Basie's ship catches fire, and it ends up spiraling down towards the surface of Cetos.
Yep.
Captain Teva struggles to regain control of his vessel, and Hera manages to steady the Ghost. And when all is said and done, only the Ghost and 2 X-Wings remain.
Yeah, Teva's certainly one of them.
Yeah.
There's a question about who
I'm
the other one might be.
I'm guessing it's the one played by Brendan Wayne.
Do you think so?
I think
I
so.
kind of thought so as well.
Hmm.
We'll find out next week.
Yes, we will.
Well, 2 days, really.
But on board the Ghost, Hera catches her breath as Chopper mutters away in the back. And I'm not fully sure what he says, but
some expletive.
Maybe. But as the wake of the Eye of Sion fades from view, Jason turns to his mother and tells her he has a bad feeling.
It's a nice variation of the legacy line.
Yeah, I got a bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
But back on the surface, Hu Yang exits the ship trying to raise Sabine on the comms. He's fixed the engine, but he's getting no response. He tries to reach Ahsoka, but with no success. And alone in the forest, he calls out to her as the wind blows through the trees. Back at the henge, all is silent.
And now what you've all come for.
Except for the crashing of the waves. And I love this panning because the camera pans from the top down over the henge, across the cliff, and out into the water.
I like that as well.
Take
What
that,
a great transition. Yes. Yes.
There's no body. Ahsoka's missing.
Yeah.
And as we continue to pan, the waves transition into like a wash of starlight.
Super, super transition here.
Yeah, where we continue and we find an unconscious Ahsoka. And as she stirs, little ripples motion around her. Oh, we got one coming in here.
We got Dark Holder from YouTube says, I'm calling it now. The Anakin scene is a fake out. It's not Anakin or Vader, although I feel we will see Vader for a minute. I feel the owl will also make an appearance. We've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks. We haven't seen Morai yet.
Yeah.
And there's theories around the apartment here that because she's dipping those toes so deep into the dark side, that maybe Morai is kind of like keeping her at arm's length.
You're on your own. You're on your own for now.
So you make a decision, which is coming, in my opinion.
Yeah. But she sits up, and very quickly we realize somehow she's back in the world between worlds. And as she stands, echoes ring out like stepping on a sheet of glass.
Oh, yeah.
Standing alone in the world between worlds, Ahsoka's eyes go wide as she hears an echo call out, "Hello, Snips." And she calls out calmly, "Master?" But thinking she might be hearing things, she raises a hand to her head, but then closer, louder, and clearer, we hear the voice of Anakin Skywalker say, "I didn't expect to see you so soon."
So soon. Interesting.
Slowly she turns, only to find her master, Anakin Skywalker, standing there. She whispers her name, and he returns a smile. Still in disbelief, there's a look of hope on her face as we cut to black. But for that brief second in the dark, we hear the tones of Vader's theme.
Yeah, we get Vader's theme, the Imperial March there.
Yeah.
Holy
crap.
There's a lot of speculation about what's going on here. I'm sure we're gonna add to that.
Yeah. Do we want to speculate right off on the Anakin thing?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had a whole train of thought. It's like, because the question, I think, Hank, you were the one to ask the question. Does we all agree that this is not
A Force
the
ghost.
the ghost of Anakin Skywalker?
Correct.
And I took it this way. Let's empirically state what we know conclusively about the world between worlds.
Yeah.
We know that we've only ever seen 2 living people there, 3 if you include Morai, and that's Ahsoka and Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
If this is a Force ghost, it doesn't. This is a fully corporeal thing. A Force ghost is translucent and limbed in blue energy. This is not.
That's right.
This does not jive with what we know and understand about Force ghosts.
Does not.
So I don't know what this is.
So it you can go down the path. The next logical step of it, if it's not a Force ghost, and we know from Dave Filoni's multiple descriptions of this being about almost like a nexus. Like I use this Star Wars, Star Trek sort of where Guinan's from, the nexus idea.
Yeah.
That all events exist here simultaneously. And so in Rebels, Yoda is actually able to project himself there and pull Ezra Bridger in there.
What's interesting
Have
is
a conversation.
There's an interview with Dave where Dave actually makes a point to say that Yoda uses it like a conveyance.
Right.
Yeah, we actually have that clip.
Oh, cool.
So let's run that right now.
Sure.
I have several small goals. One of the things I wanted to do was find a way to tie together all of the Star Wars films and animated series in one place so that people get this idea that this is all a connected thing, that they're not desperate from each other, that they are inclusive of each other. And I believe that Star Wars has this grandeur to it. I believe the Force has this infinite space to it. So I started seeding in season 1 this idea of a place where there are stars. When Ezra's in the Jedi Temple and he gets his lightsaber crystal, he is in that world between worlds. He just doesn't know it yet because he's too naive and he's not fully unlocked. The next time he's there with Yoda. And Yoda obviously knows about it because Yoda's talking to him through this as some kind of conveyance where they can both exist in this place. But they probably aren't very far from where they are physically. But it doesn't have anything to do with the physical. It has to do with kind of where they believe they are and where they are mentally. So finally, when he unlocks all the secrets, he can go into this place and have more of an awareness of what's actually going on. And this is when the full world is revealed to him. And then he knows that evil also wants it. Because things like that are too good to be true, evil always wants those things to destroy them and to use them for ill purposes.
So
interesting.
Then this could be so logically from that, this could be Anakin projecting into the world between worlds from the time
That point back then. Yeah.
That point in his life.
Right. But why the alternate saber?
So that's another question that I have. Now, wait, Darkholder's got a point here, and he says this may be the brother in the world between worlds.
Maybe.
Does that hold water for you, Hank?
No.
I
mean,
well, let's dial in on the Anakin parts here.
Sure.
He's wearing his attire from Revenge of the Sith.
100%.
That is, yep, for sure.
He's still got his scar from Asajj Ventress.
100%.
Yes. So, I
But
mean,
the
that's
saber
definitely not a
is
Force
definitely-
ghost.
Yeah, the saber is definitely in question there, but zooming up on it, I almost think it's still Anakin's saber. I don't think it's Vader's.
I actually said this today. I sent it over to you, and I'm like, you know what? I'm still confused as to what this is. Is this a shadowing thing? Is this a lighting thing? Is this a stunt? Is this a prop, a stunt prop that made it into a hero shot that shouldn't have? Like, I don't think we know enough about this.
There are no accidents.
True.
Why is the light off the center part of the hilt not gleaming off the?
I don't know.
The bottom part.
Right.
That part
That's
throws
the
me as
difference.
well.
That's the difference to me.
I do not know.
Also, it's every time we've seen this idea, like I'm trying to think of the scenes. Kylo Ren in when he kills Han Solo in The Force Awakens, where his face is like where they use lighting to illustrate his conflict.
Yeah.
So the way that Anakin's lit here, he's
pretty lit up. He's very well, without having the limbed luminescence of the Force ghost, he's pretty bright.
Half his face is in shadow. I mean, that's it.
That's true. That's true.
Andy's brightened that up quite a bit.
That is true as well.
This one here,
yeah.
But
I mean, so I get to this logical path, and then the lightsaber stops me dead. Then the other thing that stops me dead from thinking other things along that path is the line that he gives her, which is, "I didn't think I'd see you so soon," which to me is like, "Oh, I didn't think you're going to die yet."
Yeah, it definitely feels like in the afterlife.
It's got those right, like those connotations, and so
there's
a whole other thing too. Is that the idea that and it's a different Filoni interview, but he says, but basically, once Ezra's there, he's always there.
Yeah,
he's always been there, and so Ahsoka has always been there and is always there.
That's right.
Man, I mean, like I said at the beginning, since maybe Empire Strikes Back, I haven't been sitting awake at night going.
So let's take it from the perspective that this is in fact Anakin Skywalker. This isn't a manifestation. This is Anakin Skywalker inside the world between worlds. Where is he projecting from? And I have an idea where it might be.
Could he be projecting from his deathbed on Mustafar?
No. I think he's still sitting in the Jedi Temple. Mace Windu has told him, stay here. And he has that time where he's ruminating over what's about to happen. and he hasn't made a move to go to the Emperor yet. But they make a point of showing us him brooding over what's happening and him sitting there. He's got a lot of time to sit there and think. I don't know how he got in there, but I think that might be where he's at. Maybe.
Got another one coming in from Darkholder here.
The only thing that would be awful would be if they use the World Between Worlds to redo the episode and make it Groundhog Day and make Ahsoka the new Gandalf, and she comes back as Ahsoka the White.
Oh, I don't want to break your heart, but have you ever seen the drawing? Did you grab the drawing?
We've all seen that drawing.
Yeah,
we've all seen.
There's a new one floating around this week, though.
That's what
Gandalf the Grey talking to.
So they thought I was dead too.
Yeah, I did see that one.
I mean, that's where we're headed.
Potentially, that is
how we get there. But there's another scene in on Mortis where basically, or no, sorry, not on Mortis, but in Rebels when Ahsoka's in the Lothal Temple, and ostensibly everybody in that room, Ezra, Kanan, Ahsoka, all interacts with the World Between Worlds in some fashion.
Sure.
Kanan has his test with the Inquisitor and the Temple Guards. Ezra actually physically talks to Yoda. And Anakin comes to her, and the first thing he says is, "Hey, Snips," and she feels him, and then he slowly starts to chastise her, and then he antagonizes her, and then he's Vader, and that's probably where my brain is with what's about to happen.
So, while we're on the World Between Worlds, and this has nothing to do with Anakin, I just want to stick with the World Between Worlds and the idea that once you're there, you're always there. You've always been there. You will always be there.
Is this a recreation of that moment?
Remember way back when we first started this and I said, I think Ezra Bridger's dead. I think Ezra Bridger is dead, but he still exists in the World Between Worlds. And that's how he could come back. Ahsoka and Ezra exit the World Between Worlds in the new galaxy where Thrawn is. And that's how we reunite everybody. That's a possibility.
But you can't, I mean,
you're not supposed to go out
the other
door
clip.
You didn't come
can't.
into,
you have to go in the door you came in through.
Do you?
Well, I mean,
do you?
Because Palpatine was
right
ready
about
that.
You're right about that.
We don't know that. Ahsoka is the one that told Ezra that it probably, for a reason you shouldn't.
And then the second Dave Filoni interview where he says they understand that'll break the timeline.
Sure. Well,
yeah.
I think it's interesting, though.
Oh, it's crazy interesting.
I think it's interesting that we're there. I have to admit, like, as much as the speculation around the whole series was we're going to the World Between Worlds, part of me was like, I don't care if we do or not. But now that we're there,
let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, stylistically, the translation of the World Between Worlds from animation to live action, how do we feel about the white? This is like more of a misty, foggy,
like a blue starlight.
I do like that. I like the transition. Not instead of having white, very hard demarcated borderlines, everything is kind of softer, and the blue. I like that.
Yeah, I like that they kept the same similar like glass stepping tones.
Yeah,
so you still know that you're on one of those style roads.
Yeah. That could even be we might be in the world between the World Between Worlds.
The world between the world between.
So we're gonna run into Rey in the mirror.
Oh,
there is 40 others.
That's right.
True.
Wow, man. Leaving in the World Between Worlds, as I said at the beginning of the show, I'm gonna bookend it and I'm gonna repeat it. No wonder this week's episode is getting a limited theatrical release.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get an alternate Mustafar? What do you think?
I don't know.
I'm almost gonna. I was joking with Lauren. She's like, "Don't you dare!" I was like, "I'd bet rent on it." I'm super confident. Everybody is forgetting that they cast a young Ahsoka Tano 8 months ago.
That's right. They did.
So she has yet to show up.
Do we remember the young lady's name?
She played. She was in the first Spider-Man movie.
She looks great.
She looks
great.
She played Liz Allen, did she not?
Liz Allen. She's the Vulture's daughter in the first Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I can't remember her name.
If we get an alternate Mustafar, it definitely warrants, her appearance, that younger version of a
timeline version.
And here's how in my head, this is how I would play it out. It wouldn't be something like, she steps into the world and fights Anakin, and it's different. She beats him and stuff. I think it's more or less.
It wouldn't have mattered if you came to stop me.
Right.
It would have
so
happened
this is
anyway.
her pain, and the lesson she has to learn to move forward. Her
Yeah.
Dagobah cave moment is that even if you were there, you could have done nothing.
I think it ties
might
in.
have been worse.
It ties in succinctly with I walked away before he could complete my training, and she's harboring guilt over that,
Right?
Over leaving him.
And it's unspoken, but if she was on Mustafar, she's got to be thinking, and this is the Jedi hubris. If it was me, I could have saved it.
I could have stopped it. I could have prevented the fall.
This is the transcendent lesson. This is the thing that's holding her back from being Ahsoka the White.
That much I totally can get behind.
Our actress's name is Laura Harrier.
Laura Harrier. Okay, yeah. I think she's great. I've seen some mock-ups already with the headgear on, and I think she looks great. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that plays out. Fingers crossed. Wow. Are we at the end of the show?
That's our 4th episode.
Oh my gosh. I will definitely. I know with the kids and stuff, Andy, are you going to be watching at 9 p.m.?
I'll probably end up watching around 10 or 10.
Okay, so Hank and I will chat privately. So we're watching it in real time.
Shut up! I didn't know that yet. Oh God!
And of course, we will be back next week to break it all down for you, just like we did tonight. It's the way we do it here on Fandom Power. It's our deep dive, all the Easter eggs, all of the greater lore connections, and some of the things that you may have missed, or maybe you didn't. Maybe you've heard them all by the time you get to us. But hey, nobody does it like we do. So thank you for everybody that came to hang out with us tonight. Hopefully you'll be back again next week. If Star Wars isn't really your thing, but you like the way we do it, come back on Tuesday night, because we will be back this Tuesday, as at least Andy and I will be here for Random Fandom Tuesday.
So we got lots to go over this Tuesday.
Yeah, because we got 2 weeks worth of stuff now to chew on. All the random pop culture stuff that caught our attention over the last few days,
including some giant toys.
Yeah,
I did not see that one coming.
Which one? The Marvel one?
The Marvel Giant Man.
Yeah.
Like, isn't this out already?
The Toy Biz thing?
Yeah, he was out, but he was only 16 inches.
Yeah.
This one's going to clock in at 24.
24.
That's impressive.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Listen, I hope you had a great time. I know I had a great time. How about you guys?
Oh, man.
We're talking Star Wars.
Episode ever.
It's the best episode
And if
ever.
the trend, it's continued every episode.
Every episode has gotten progressively.
So I have faith that the next one's just going to keep going.
This one's going to blow the roof off.
And I know there's some articles out there writing, like, detracting from this series.
What the heck, man?
They're not watching the same series.
They can't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was it? The
lightsabers are the lightsaber dull.
Dull. That was the word.
She looks like an Oompa Loompa with a headdress on. Like,
No.
what? You're just trolling us, and we're not playing.
I believe that these are, would you call these clickbait?
I would believe so.
I mean, I don't profess to be a journalist by any means, but man, at least, when I talk about this stuff, we're fans first. That's how we want to present it. So hope you had a good time. I know I did, and I will be back next week to do it all over again. Oh, Dark Older, take care. Thank you very much. You too. Hope to see you. Hope to see you next week. Come hang out with us on Tuesday, same time, 6 p.m. Eastern. And that's it for me, guys.
Yeah.
So until next time, for Fandom Power, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Hank.
We will catch you on the next one. Bye for now, everybody.
Pew, pew.